Hello, everyone. This is Poisel again, here with our text review of chapters 1 through 8 of Sailor's Text, our online text that we've been reading and discussing for a while now. Um, we don't have a long time to talk about this, so I'm just gonna dive right in, and then I have some personal things to say to talk about in relation to this and to the class and to my experiences. So first, takeaways. Chapter 1, uh, the very idea of like cultural intelligence and leadership. My takeaway of this is it's a great introduction. It's important to discuss why we're even taking this class. Why are we reading this book? What is the importance of cultural intelligence? Why do we want our leaders to have it? Found this a good introduction, very insightful. Good talk about what it means to be a leader, especially in this day and this culturally diverse world. Chapter 2 moves into what is culture. We think about culture oftentimes as our ethnic culture, our racial culture, but there's more to it than that. Um, and this leads into kind of my point that comes from some of my critiques of this book and my critiques of my interactions in this class. Um, this book is lacking a lot of information and details about queer culture. Um, and I'm going to come back to this in chapter 7. Uh, Chapter 3, what is cultural intelligence? It breaks down my favorite takeaway of this is the discussion of the idea of cognition and metacognition, philosophical ideas of how do we know things, how do we think. This is really interesting, really important, and even more so than how we think about how we think, the metacognition part. I think the book it was a really good primer on this philosophy of thought, this philosophy of how we think about thought. In chapter 4, I love the breakdown that goes even further into metacognition. Um, what is the difference between knowledge and experience and strategies? How do we adapt our thinking process? How do we adapt what we know? How do we know the things that we know? What's the difference between what we know and what we experience? Um, and I really like this. I think the book did really, really great with its just philosophical ideas of phrasing them and putting them in such a way that it was accessible to those who may not have a philosophical background, which I've taken a number of philosophy classes here on campus. I read a lot of philosophy, so I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a very good rehashing of that. Uh, Chapter 5, self efficacy, the idea of emotional intelligence. Personally, as a practitioner of Buddhist philosophy, I really enjoyed the chapter and the idea on mindfulness. I think mindfulness is very important. The awareness that we showed other people around us, the things. I think it's incredibly important to being culturally aware and having cultural intelligence is the mindfulness that we show. This goes into chapter 6, self concept. How we see ourselves is very important. Um, and this goes into what I took away. My the part of it that struck out to me is the idea of dissonance, the things that ring against us, what makes us not shut down a bit in within situations. So part of my self concept, my identification is I'm a queer person. I'm non-binary. I use the name Poisel. I introduce myself. I sign everything Poisel. I introduce myself in every one of my videos as Poisel. This is the name that I choose. I really do not like the name Adam. I don't like being referred to by it, and but it's also hard for me to have that conversation sometimes with people, especially over the internet. People I don't know, it's easier face to face. And so that's why I post these videos late sometimes because I don't want to get a bunch of responses that use a name that causes me some issues. And so you have to, I guess, I don't know, deal with that. Not This is why this is coming in so late. And then we get into the case studies, chapter 7. There's a bunch of case studies about a wide range of people, racial, ethnic, ability, disability, all sorts of things about these real world examples of how we can apply cultural intelligence. But there are no examples in all of the case studies about queer people, about trans people, about these people, my culture, these people that are often unprotected in a lot of states, disproportionately affected by a lot of issues. Trans people of color are one of the most discriminated groups in America, and they're not, like, there's no mention of queer identity anywhere in this book. It's, if we want to be culturally sensitive, this is something we need to talk about. This is an important part of the world. We can't just ignore it, and Sailor ignores it in this text. And so this goes into chapter 8, the future. This is something I'd like to see changed. I would like to see this as part of these texts. I'd like to see this as part of these discussions about these classes, about culture. This is its own culture. We need to talk about it. We need to know how to be culturally sensitive and understanding of this, because it is a big thing in our country, and it is queer people and trans people being persecuted and being attacked and being killed. And so that's what I would like to discuss. That's what I'd like to talk about in the future. So sorry this ran long. I had a lot to talk about, but I hope you listen, and I hope you enjoy it. And I guess I'll hear your responses. So this is Poisel, and until next time.